You are listening to the Icehouse Podcast, hosting conversations with gritty Kiwi business owners and leaders and industry-leading minds.
Wow, welcome Katrina to the Icehouse Podcast. I am beaming because I'm excited to be recording it in person as well. And to those listening, welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Icehouse Podcast. I'm Bryar and I love getting to chat to our SME business owners, our alumni about their stories, and this one's no different. We're out in South Auckland this morning. We're with Katrina Jenner. She is the CEO of Jenner's Worldwide Freight here in Auckland. It's a family business that's been running for 42 years. So lots to chat about today. She did our owner manager program cohort 49. And she's been a big part of the community, comes along to lots of events and definitely a big part of what we do. So thanks heaps for being on the podcast today.
Oh, thanks so much, Bryar. This is just such a cool opportunity to, one I'm super honoured about. So thanks so much.
It's so cool. I can't wait to get into it. I like to start quite open-ended, and that's with, tell us a bit about yourself. What are you passionate about as an individual?
Yeah, so I've been passionate about freight all my life, and it's a huge part of who I am. I'm always thinking about solutions and problems, and so I find it really hard to have normal conversations with people because I'm like, oh, problem, okay, yeah, right, okay, we could solve that, all right, yeah, and but I just love connecting with people, and I love my family, husband of just coming up 22 years, kids, Alyssa 17 and Natasha who's 13, and they're just such a joy to be around, and I just love spending time with them. They're awesome, and of course, my parents, and I'm super grateful for them, and but I just love getting involved and being active and doing lots of different things, and reaching out to lots of people, and it's great for me.
That sums you up so well. That is very special. Already going to go off script, bear with me, but you showed me a photo, like we're on site at the moment, for those listening, at Jenner's Worldwide Freight, and you showed me a photo of you. I'm guessing you were 4, 3?
5.
5?
I think, yeah.
And it's the start of the family business. Did you always know that you were going to take it on?
Yeah, always knew.
Wow.
Right from then, just loved it. And part of it was, if I wanted to see Dad, and he was just my absolute hero, if I wanted to see Dad, I needed to be at work and I needed to speak his language, which was freight. And, and he just gave me, and Mum, she was in the business, such great opportunities, and like I could relate to school because of what I learnt at work, through all our holidays, through weekends, nights. Every Friday night was loading airline units out that would fly, cargo out around the world. And health and safety wasn't a big deal back then. We may have loaded on the back of a truck, but I'm really glad times have changed.
42 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing that you were so confident and like, I knew that this is what I was going to be part of. It's really special.
Yeah. Well, at 10, one of the topics the teachers say is, write a story about what you want to be when I grow up. Well, that story was I want to be a customs agent when I grow up. Now, that's morphed a little bit. I'm more on the international freight, but I do customs agents. I just haven't, so I just grew what that was. But that story got published in the Customs Bulletin back then, and got to meet the Comptroller of Customs, and for me that was just so special. My grandfather was in New Zealand Customs, my dad customs agent, and then me sort of following on, and customs and international freight's been a part of our journey for a very long time. We can trace it right back over in England, where someone was sort of a tax collector at the port way back when. So
wow, it's in the blood.
Yeah, it's really in that DNA kind of who we are, I think.
Yeah. I can see some themes coming, problem solver, solutions, you obviously love your family. What would you say your sense of purpose is in what you do?
Yeah, it's really about solving problems and helping. And so when I can help people to grow and develop, and solve those things. For businesses, it's about not just looking at the international freight, but actually what's the flow-on effect of that? How can they grow their business by actually taking some of that stress and chaos out of their business, so they can do what they're great at, and I'll do what we're great at.
Yeah.
So I really feel like my purpose is just to help.
Yeah. And we'll get into that, because I just had a look around and we talked about the fact that you're helping, New Zealand Kiwi businesses, and you're seeing the growth in these businesses as well, and you're playing a part in the growth of getting their products out to customers. It's a huge deal, but quite cool that you can kind of have a behind the scenes look into the growth of these businesses. You're like, okay, you started with one pallet, now we're at this many.
Yeah, it's
cool.
really exciting, and that's where that joy comes back, because that just really fuels you, where you can sort of see the passion in someone else's business, and they're so excited and they've got this awesome story to tell.
Yeah.
And we get to be a tiny part of that, and it's just really cool. And we cross so many different industries.
Yes.
And so I've always got variety in life.
Yes.
There's, it's not always problems. Sometimes it's just nice journeys and stuff as well.
Handbags to drinks to cars to all the things. Yeah. It's great. Going back to when you were younger, and also your career journey, did it start in the business, or did you work outside of the family business at any point?
Yeah, so we grew up and we had to learn every part of it, and Dad was very strict that, we had to be the best at everything we did. Whenever we were doing something, and when I was young, that wasn't always possible, but you had to try your hardest, and but I do feel for some other team where maybe we weren't that good at filing, but we got better at it. And
Jenny, if you're listening.
Yeah, exactly. So whilst I was studying at university, my Bachelor of Business, which my dad calls a Bachelor of Bus Driving, but anyway, that's okay. So while I was studying, I was working here, and then I went out and did some, after school type jobs or university type jobs, and then I did a stint at an underfloor heating company, and that's where I met my husband, and really lucky to work there and get really good exposure. Then I actually had to beg for a role, and because of my surname and who I was, no one would take me on. So eventually, after lots of interviews, one just went, "Katrina, how could we take you?" And you're like, "Oh man."
Why was that?
It's a competitive industry, and they just were sure I was going to always work for Dad, and
wow.
Yeah, so they just were I don't know, didn't they?
Right.
Said, you're qualified and all of the rest of it, but
your last name's
yeah.
Yeah.
So totally. I seriously thought about just changing my name and seeing if that, yeah. Anyway, so I went to P&O Ned Lloyd, which was a very large shipping line. It got bought out by Maersk, and basically I was begging them for a job, and they were like, "We can't give you that job," but a week later they called back and said, "Right, we've found you the job," and that was just such a cool experience.
Wow.
Getting to see it from the shipping line side, and so getting that big corporate exposure and just quite a different story.
Yeah.
So I did a number of years there, and I worked really hard and got lots of different learnings from that. And I went managed to convince one of the big forwarders, Kuehne Nagel, to take me on. Yep. And I had this weird title of being a sales secretary.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but what it meant was I got exposure to so many different parts, from business analytics, some sales secretary, RFQs, tenders, quoting, customer service, having to go down and tell some business managers, there's actually you're going to have to do a whole lot of work, but there's no profit in this for you, and sorry about that, but I hope you'll support this. So
wow. Hard parts of a job, yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. And then you come and then Dad said, will you join? And so 21 years ago, I joined, and looking back, I do wish that I had chosen to do a few more stints and get a bit more exposure, or that I'd come and then gone, if that makes sense, and then come back.
Yes.
So that I'd sort of, so I've had to learn so much more through other means. Often you learn on the job how to do things, so I've just had to learn them.
Yes.
A good old-fashioned way of just doing it.
Yeah.
And it's been a good journey, and I've really loved it, and I'm so grateful for all of those people for giving me the opportunities.
Yeah, amazing. And now you're at the CEO role and leading the charge.
Yeah, which is really amazing after all those years,
21 years, yeah.
Yeah, so last year in about July, Dad came to me and said, I've decided to move to the South Island, to a small town with 450 people. And I went,
whoa.
Oh, okay.
That's massive.
Yeah. And I'm so pleased for him. He can be connected to us, but he's able to go off and enjoy his life, and he can, get the best of both worlds. So he's really on our board now, although we're still sort of working out how that board works, but it's been so great suddenly having this opportunity to actually put my stamp on Jenner's and take us into the future.
Yeah,
so,
it's a good way to put it.
Yeah, really excited. And but you don't know what you don't know, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, right, I thought I knew all of that. But I've learnt lots in the last 8 months, and it's been really fascinating.
That's so interesting. And for context, for those listening, Jenny, who I mentioned before, she's been working here for 40 years, just met her and had a laugh about how she she did see you grow up.
Yeah.
But there's been some people that have been here for a long amount of time, which is really testament to the family business and that feel of growing something together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we honestly couldn't do what we do without having a fantastic team. And, whether people have been here a short time or a long time, we really feel the impact of everything they've done, and, so lucky to have at least a third of our team that are really long servers.
Yes.
And so grateful for their just loyalty and just the flavour and the values that they bring. They really keep us ticking along, and, they're still getting huge compliments from clients, which you don't always hear with long service, so that's just such amazing strength by them to keep being fresh and keep doing the right thing for the clients and for the team. That's awesome.
They just get it. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. I want to talk a little bit about the industry, the freight industry, and I mentioned to you, as you drive in here, sort of heading to the airport in Auckland, it's freight city. Like you are just right here in the middle of it, right? It's like, okay, you've got all the big names, you guys included. How has the freight industry in New Zealand evolved since I say it's being in the business, but being born maybe?
Yeah.
How's it evolved since you've been involved?
Yeah. Well, I remember sitting on the New Zealand Customs counter back, whenever you were small enough to go on a counter, and we used to hand type up, before that it was written, and all the documents. So we had telex machine that would give you the information of what was coming. You would then type up or write up these documents. They'd get physically stamped. Couple would go off and be checked by New Zealand Customs, and then you'd be allowed to process things. And, initially that was sort of like a week, 3 days, something like that to process through. And gradually over time it's now down to milliseconds.
Wow.
And, not everything gets processed that fast. And some of MPI sometimes, they're doing much better. But at the worst of it, because of the huge volume and how much they have to sort of still have good oversight, that still takes a couple of days, but for good reason. But for most part, we can get things done instantly, and it's just insane. There's so much AI coming into the industry. There's so much that can be done out of New Zealand. But we're really grateful that we've still got a team only in New Zealand, that we're really focused on making sure that we've got the right people for the future, and that we are developing people. That's just really important to us. So the industry's vastly different. Back when my granddad was around, they just had bulk parcels coming off. There weren't containers, and so there would be just freight on the docks, and then Dad started with a typewriter in the back of a Bedford van out near the airport and typing the customs entries to try and get a bit of an advantage. And we moved out here to what became Airport Oaks in '86, and at that stage Farmer Rennie was still milking the cows down the street, and I remember how much of a big deal it was. And now you can't get any land out here, and it's just grown up around. The volumes that move now are just insane. Yeah. But it's awesome seeing exporters just grow and develop and be able to get their products around the world that maybe 20 years ago we couldn't.
Yeah, totally. Because it's there's changes in the freight industry in terms of you guys as a function, in terms of the speed, the AI, how the process works, but then there's actually changes for all of the businesses involved, right? Because now it's so much easier to sell and distribute overseas to export, and so that's just changed the whole business landscape of how to do business from New Zealand.
Absolutely. And for a lot of businesses, the last 3 years has been a time for them to learn about supply chain and logistics, because it's been so broken, so they've had to learn a bit more. And there's I call it a supply chain circle, and that you need, and there's lots of stops around that circle, and you hope that there's not any stops. But what we found over the last 3 years was that every part in that circle was broken, and and they had a domino effect, and so we almost got to the point where the circle couldn't turn, and so you're finding just massive delays and massive costs. And that's really why I sort of, part of my journey was I stepped up and went, all right, I think I can give back to the industry. So I joined CABAF Council, so that's Customs Brokers and Freight Forwarders Federation, and stood and just thought that maybe I could help out the industry to actually work through a number of the challenges and make sure that we're gearing up for the future, that New Zealand exporters and importers can really move goods efficiently and cost effectively, that there'd be something for every business, not just the big movers, because I think it's important that the small businesses have a fair chance as well. So that's been so amazing for my journey, just to learn about that from a completely different side, and that's really allowed me to grow and develop heaps more. We're working on a program at the moment to step up air freight security at the moment, and that's going to sort of just really get a industry standard of how to do secure cargo, and we're really designing it for the SME businesses so that they can understand their compliance needs in this space, and they can keep cargo moving. They don't, we don't want delays, we don't want extra costs, and just really trying to support small businesses and large ones to keep trading and keep New Zealand moving.
I love that, and cool to be part of an organisation like that supports your business, supports the industry, and supports all businesses in New Zealand. Just really quickly, practically, what does that look like? Does that look like a monthly catch-up or a sit-down session a week? Or
so I'm really lucky. The council meets quarterly, but we're regularly talking about topics, and we've all sort of picked up little areas that we get exposed to. So I get involved in ports and international air travel and airlines and depots and national road carriers. So I get quite a wide cross-section. And so for me, I sort of learnt so much more about businesses. But I'm really lucky there's so many people on the council that are just so knowledgeable, and honestly I look at them and just think, wow, I get to be in the room with you guys. This is cool.
Oh wow. And I'm sure people are thinking the same about you, by the way.
Oh,
the value you'd bring though,
so.
the years of experience of just living and breathing it, growing up in it, it's interesting. But I know what you mean, being in a room with people you can bounce ideas around, and people I'm sure you've looked up to over the years too.
Yeah, absolutely. And being vice president, we meet at least monthly, if not more regularly. And yes, we're really getting good traction on topics and really making a difference. It's been, it's so cool to be such a part of an industry group that's growing and developing and really trying to make a difference.
It's very cool. In terms, we've touched on it, but that whole point around making a difference for small, medium-sized businesses. How do you support their growth in a very one-on-one business way? Like, how do you work with the actual owner or manager in there to support their growth?
Yeah, so it's one of those ones where just in having chats, kind of like we were doing before, you sort of, you just get talking to people, and the obvious is you start with, all right, how's your freight moving, what's happening, and is that working well for you or not? And then you start, as you get to know them better, usually they start letting in the goods and the bads.
Yes.
Because
yeah,
and then you can start really breaking that down and start really talking about, all right, how's this going to impact? Because as freight forwarders, we're all putting cargo on the same aircraft and the same vessels, but how we do it, we try and do it different. We try and look at those jobs that others won't look at. But for customers, it's really about trying to understand their story and what's going to make the most difference to them, and then going, all right, we're the safe pair of hands. You worry about the rest of your business, and we'll keep you posted, but you don't have to go seeking it from somewhere. We'll just give you that information. So, and you just build that confidence together.
That's huge for a business. Yeah, I want to hear learnings from your journey. So if you were to say to yourself, your past self, hey, I want to just give you a heads up on something, what's one of those things?
As I say, would I have joined Jenner's at that point? Probably. Go out and experience a bit more life, just not because you don't want to join Jenner's, but because you can add so much more value if you have gained some more experience. But also just start backing yourself, and like we're only a small business, so we're always, we're small, and invariably along the way we've been able to mess with the big boys and do things that they can or that they can't. Which is really cool. But I don't know. It's
backing yourself is a big one. That's huge.
Yeah.
Would you say as an individual too, as a leader?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Always got that imposter sort of syndrome thing, where you're sort of like, I'm not good enough for this. And actually when you start just doing the job and putting yourself out there, actually, who cares if you're not perfect, but just get out and do it and stop beating yourself up. Just
it's mind-blowing to me, because I'm always like, wow, I'm so honoured to have this conversation and to hear your story, and I'm very inspired by what all that business owners carry. But the amount that say and all demographics, all business sizes and people, I have struggled with imposter syndrome in the journey. That's what they say. And it always is like, wow, really? But I think it's more common than we think.
Oh, absolutely. And, Yeah, and I think going on the Icehouse course was a fabulous way for me to actually go, okay, no, I can, I might not have everything, but that's okay. I don't need to have every skill, and I can actually just get an experts to help me, and encourage the team to go off and learn about those parts. And so, that philosophy of Dad's of you've got to do everything doesn't necessarily ring true these days. It's great if you've had that experience, but you don't have to keep doing it. So you can just
focus on what you're really good at too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
totally.
in focusing on that, actually you can do even more.
Yes.
And I think we're getting into a really great space here at Jenner's where we're really moving in that right direction, and starting to get that sort of flow going. We just need a couple more bits to fall into place, and
you'll be away. That's very cool to hear. I wanted to ask this question because it's very common for family businesses to come through Icehouse programs or to think about doing so. There's many family businesses that have been through the Icehouse. What's a piece of advice that you would give to someone that is in your position 21 years ago, joining the family business? What's a piece of advice you'd give for that person?
Have fun outside of work with your family, and be really dedicated about that time, and making sure that right through your journey that home life isn't lost, that it doesn't just merge into one and suddenly you lose your identity as family.
Yes.
And with Dad moving to the South Island, it's been really nice to really separate that out again. We weren't as good at that as I would have liked, and when I look back, really separate that out. And the other bit would be really periodically check in and get on paper each other's responsibilities and expectations.
That's very practical. I like that. That's very important, because I feel like that would get watered a little bit, just around who's doing what.
Yeah, and that sort of expectations for the future of, I don't think we did our succession as well as we could have done, and that was probably because we just didn't write enough of it down, and so we sort of had slightly different interpretations, but not saying it was bad, it just, when you look back you think, oh, maybe it could have been a bit better.
Yeah, totally. Which I'm sure is most people's stories with succession. It's huge, and it's a very, I don't know if vulnerable is the right word, but it's a very emotional and weighty time, like if you've founded a business and it's been your thing, and you're passing it on to especially your own child, it's a really big deal. And so succession, it's a big one.
Yeah, and for Dad, I've always wanted to do the absolute best for him.
Yeah.
And when you look back, you think, oh, actually, I missed the mark quite a few times, but that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
And the intention was there, and the desire to do it, and I hope that he'll be, proud with what we achieve, because of the fabulous foundations he's set up for us.
Yeah, that's really cool. Generational legacy, really. He's leaving a legacy that's been continued, which is cool. Do you think one of your girls would want to take it on one day?
I'm not sure.
Fair enough.
I've been training them up though.
Cool.
They work on the handbags, so the picking and packing of that, and it's incredible. So if anyone's got kids that are just on devices, or they're just struggling in their schoolwork and they just don't get it and so on, get them into a job somehow, because that ability to understand the value of money, of hard work, of how much is expected of you, you just can't learn that at school.
Yeah.
So, getting that practical advice. So my youngest, she's doing so much better in her studies since we've got her working just in the holidays, and she gets plenty of fun time. So
totally.
But it's been brilliant for her. So So yeah, who knows? Maybe a third generation to come.
You said it right at the start, and you just said it again around the benefit of family business or business for your school life, and I can just relate to that. My dad owns a business, and even if it was, I did work for him for a little bit, but even if it wasn't that, it was just growing up in the family chats over the dinner table about family business. It helps so much for your schoolwork. So completely relate to that, and definitely think it's valuable.
Yeah, and that's one of those hard things, isn't it, when you talk about family businesses and you say, keep work life to work and home life home. Some of that gets lost if you, some of that potential to add stuff to kids actually gets lost if you take that too perfectly.
Yes, hugely.
So you've got to have those chats and show them, and also, isn't it nice to be really proud and have your kids be really proud of what you're doing as well?
Oh, absolutely. So true. And to go through the highs and to see the grit it takes to actually be a business owner, I'm sure through COVID times, or any, high and low, like families rally together over the dinner table or whatever it is. It's actually really, really special. So I can completely relate. Yeah. In terms of the Icehouse community and what that's done for you as a business owner and CEO, what impact has the Icehouse had on you? It's a big open question.
Yeah. Well, it's had way more impact than I thought it would. I'm just so grateful to all the Icehouse team who have been so brilliant. The course was awesome, but the people were just insanely good. I couldn't have asked for a better OMP group. They are just rock stars in their fields, and so grateful to call them friends now. So we catch up with a portion of the group, the Auckland-based ones, every couple of months.
Wow.
And we go to a cafe or a bar, and there's no one else in the world that's ever been able to say, Katrina, you said you were going to do something. Is it done? How are you going?
Yes.
And you're just straight there. You're into that business talk. Someone will go, oh, geez, I'm having a tough time with X, and between us, we've all been through something and have got experience to share.
Yeah.
And you just can't put a value on that network.
Yeah.
The same when we go to alumni functions, and you just get to meet a different group, but the rules are, that you share openly and honestly, and, you don't talk about that outside of the group, but you really get a sense and such excitement and passion because people have put so much heart and soul into their business. And where else, can you get that from, where you can go and talk to people that have been there before and they've had troubles, but they've conquered them, and, you can relate.
Yeah.
And you might have something to offer, you might have something to that occupies your mind later, and you think, oh wow, yeah, that was cool, maybe I could inspire my team. And so that's why I keen to support the community activities, because I feel like I've got something to give back to people, and keen just to hear other people's stories and journeys. And wow, it's just such a wide, diverse group, isn't it? It's just brilliant, so the more you can get along to, the more you get exposed to different people. I'm really hoping to do one of the owner-manager exchanges in the future.
Cool. And
hoping that we can get some of the team on the leadership course. But yeah, we just got to make it all happen, and,
Yeah, wow. And yeah, you said it, it's so diverse, such a range of people. And so when you do a program, your whole network is opened up to people you would never meet before. But I love what you said. Essentially, you sort of get out what you put in terms of, if you don't come to an event, then you're not going to get some of that gold from some local businesses. But the more you can get to things that works for you, obviously, the more you can get out of it post-program. And you have done just that. It's been so cool to see you at conferences and events when you can, and, anything like that. It's been really cool to get to know you through that. But yeah, I completely agree. Like, community, the Icehouse community makes me very happy, and it's amazing to see. I call it the Icehouse magic unfold when you get together in a room.
Yeah.
But like what you said right at the start of that, just someone saying, hey, you said you're going to do this, and how are you? Like, how are you in doing that? Are you doing all right? How's it going? That just unlocks this like vulnerability of, okay, well, you can ask how I am, I can ask how you are, and we're going to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's
absolutely.
the Icehouse. Yeah, it's cool.
And with in your personal life, when your friends ask, you might not answer about your business stuff.
Yes.
And so you're not letting all of that out because you don't really want to sort of bring them down or whatever, or you don't want to sort of be seen to be gloating or anything. But with them you can talk about business and
and they've got the context too, right? Being in your program or even just owning a business themselves, they get it.
Yeah.
Where someone that doesn't maybe own a business or isn't in that world of business might not get all the context, and so you're like, I can't explain this without explaining that, and it's in the too hard basket. Yeah. Super interesting.
Yeah, and just the inspiration from the different challenges people face, and you're like, oh wow, who would have thought that would be a challenge? And then a year down the track, you're like, oh yeah, okay, gosh, how lucky am I that I've heard about that already?
Yes.
Or perhaps I've been there first and can go, how about this?
Yes,
and,
it's huge.
It's really cool. But the actual OMP course, we were really lucky. Our course, 49, was the longest course, I think,
the
in
longest
history.
one in history. 2020, 2020, right?
Yeah. So the COVID course. So we'd come out of lockdowns. We'd done our first block. Then we went into lockdown, and we came out of our lockdown, and they had all the tables separated, and we were like, okay, I think we were wearing masks, and we're sort of like, okay, how's this going to work? And it just worked. And we just did what we needed to do to get that Icehouse magic working, and it was just brilliant. And so we had businesses that thought they might close, that were rapidly changing their business, and but such a great time to be doing the course because you've got all that extra help and knowledge to actually go, all right, I don't have to do this on my own, and what progress can we make, and some of those businesses have just absolutely become rock stars out of it, which is just awesome. And but the program's been really great. You just get exposed to so many different areas of business, and so many different experts come in and talk to you, and you're just like, okay. The part I found challenging was going, all right, cool, I've heard this great story, now how do I implement that? And given all the supply chain challenges that we had at the time, we were pushed to the max.
Yes, huge for your
and
industry.
So we have had to just accept that a lot of the changes that we wanted to, basically instantly make, we've just got to take our time. And that's been a valuable lesson for me. Just it's progress.
Yes, slow success is such a good thing. Like slow journeys, but doing it right and not rushing into things.
Not taking off too much. And not trying to change the world in an instant when actually the world's changing right around you as well. Yes,
of course. So interesting. Oh, I love hearing all of that. It's amazing. How did you hear of the Icehouse in the first place? How did you get on program or hear about program?
So quite a number of years before, or a couple of years before, I'd sort of started looking for something. I knew I hadn't learned enough and was sort of like desperate to learn, but I just couldn't find the right thing, and I was like, oh wow, gosh, that looks fancy, that won't be for me, and then a lovely friend in book club, she I was talking about a couple of people that have been on the course and about their journeys, and I was like, oh, tell me more. And I'm pretty sure at that stage I reached out and said, and spoke to Maurice, and
Yes.
at that point sort of started thinking, yeah, all right, I really need to get on this.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I chose that instead of some of the other things I was looking at. For me, it's really worked, and I like that practical learning where you get to sort of talk, and you haven't got the distractions of normal business, because you go away for the blocks for 3 days
Yes.
at a time, and so you can really focus on what's coming up. And so, I'm really grateful that I did the course and for everyone on it and taking it. But yeah, man, I wish I'd started a couple of years earlier.
It's funny how often I hear that, actually. I wish I did it sooner.
Yeah. So, get stuck in.
Get stuck in. Yeah,
just,
totally.
Just do it.
Yeah, that's so cool to hear. I love how much of an impact you had. Did it feel like the first day of school when you rocked up to the block one?
Oh my gosh, yes. And tell us about yourself, and I was like, oh my god, who am I?
Who am I? Quickly.
Yeah. But fairly quickly we just clicked as a group, and it was just incredible how you can go from not knowing someone to understanding so much more about them just in a weekend.
Yeah. And it's the content you learn on program, but it's the chats that happen over dinner and over a drink, or going for your guys' morning walks, or those sorts of things that people tend to be talking about years on.
Absolutely. And funny how someone will be like quite particular that this isn't, a particular part isn't for them in block one, and they're like, look, that, understand the rest of it, but that part won't be for me. And then, a number of blocks later, they're like, all right, guess what I'm doing? And you're like,
interesting.
And so you really have to open up your mind and not rule anything out, and just take those courses in the chats that you have, and really listen, and not, you're just so privileged to have those chats.
Yes, yeah, it's very cool to hear. Were there any hesitations for you before jumping on program, or was it like, no, let's do this, I've heard enough, I'm ready?
Lots of hesitations. I mean, it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Yeah, and will I actually make a difference? Will they all just be amazing, and I'll be sitting there going, oh my God, and sort of, I'm always busy, and I'm in an industry where, you have to be available. You can't just go, all right, call them off for days. I have to, so how do I actually find the time to not just do the course, but do it well? And so that was my biggest hesitation,
Yes. Top 3 right there would be quite common.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a practical question? How did you find the time? Did you get someone to check your emails while you're there, or was it just like, I'll take calls throughout, or?
In the beginning, I just did a bit of keep things going.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of late nights before the course,
Yes.
and a lot of late nights after. And then gradually I would just be like, nah, actually I've got to be well rested for this, and I've got to, really focus on those 3 circles, and focus on myself.
Yes.
And be like, no, actually, for the good of those other 2 circles of myself and the business and the business, I really have to just make sure that I'm in best rested condition and not distracted. So I put on my auto reply, I'm off doing the Icehouse program, and I'm learning, and so the team's here, and they'll be supporting you, but I am available if you desperately need me. But I really tried to put that space in there, because it was just so important to be present.
Yes. It's cool that you sort of learnt that throughout the program, right? And then started implementing it later in the program, being like, okay, I need to start focusing on you, knowing it will benefit the business overall. That's gold.
Yeah. And because of the pandemic, I wasn't as good as I would have liked, but I have brought back into my into my day time where I just take time out for sort of to do my projects. And
Cool.
so every morning now is I do an hour of whatever it is that I need to get done.
Yes.
So that then I come into the office. So usually I've missed some traffic and I get in and I'm ready to be present here.
Yes.
And that taking that little bit of time and has just been critical for me.
Do you mean
being
like
successful
personal
now.
things, or like your own projects at work that you want to get done before you come into the office, or like running errands, or just time to, I don't know, what does it look
Yeah.
like for you?
So probably it's flexible, but 4 out of 5 days it's definitely about business projects. But invariably one of the days will kick in and you're just like, hang on, I just need to process something here. And so it might be just sitting on the deck with a cup of coffee and going, right, what's going to be the most important here for me? And
Wow.
how am I going to make today count? And yeah, I don't always have the answers, but you know, just having the space to take that little bit actually means so much more to getting things done.
Yes, just stopping and circuit breaker to the everyday routine and just going, actually, what can I think a little bit harder about that may unlock a few things?
Yeah. And I don't know, there's nothing like sitting in the sun and, just having a little bit of space, you know, where you haven't got someone chasing you,
Yes.
you know, because, you know, as working females, you know, we've got so many demands on us, and I know I've got a wonderful husband and he's amazing, but you can't stop that mum instinct to be there for your kids and doing everything and helping them out. And my kids are amazing,
Yeah.
but they still need time and they still need so much from you.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I get here, there's the team's amazing,
Yeah.
but they still need something, and that's awesome. So just now and again taking that minute just to go,
Yeah.
what do I need?
Oh, I like that. That's really good. Really good practical listening for those tuning in. Wow, how's it been 47 minutes? I'm like,
Sorry.
I know, this has all been great. I love it. Such a great podcast recording. Thank you so much. I want to finish with the question, what does the future look like for the business and for yourself?
Yeah. So I feel like we're just resetting for the future.
Cool. Exciting times.
Yeah, really exciting. We're setting out some great goals for the future, but really it's in a logistics and supply chain world that's rapidly evolving. It's making sure that we've got the best of technology and the best solutions and being up to the play, but always keeping it real and making sure that we've got real people here that we're investing in, that we're growing and developing, and ultimately just supporting our clients even more for the future. So, hopefully really exciting big things for us, but we just got to keep adapting and keep building.
Yeah. Oh, I'm blown away by this conversation. I've learned so much about you as an individual and the hard work you do here at Jenner's Worldwide Freight. You've got some exciting days ahead and I'm looking forward to seeing it all play out. So thank you so much for being on the podcast, for sharing the story so far, and we're looking forward to supporting you along the way.
Oh, thanks so much. And I just really appreciate the opportunity and everything that you guys do at the Icehouse, and keep doing it. It's awesome to be a part of. Thank